All right, so Jets quarterback watch continues, which I think will be a theme on this show, unfortunately. So let's look at what First Take has to say. Namely, let's look at what Max has to say. And we'll talk about First Take in a second here, but let's get right into it.
After one playoff win in 8 seasons with the team, Jay Cutler asked for and was granted his release from the Bears. Looking around at quarterback vacancies, one potential landing spot for Cutler could be the New York Jets. You know where I'm going for this one.
So there are other vacancies, but you might see where I'm going with this. There are a couple Giant fans on First Take these days. If you blinked and missed it, Skip Bayless left. And if you're noticing that there's a dramatic turn in like a lack of entertainment on the show, that might be why. When First Take started, they really caught lightning in a bottle. Because, well, no, it wasn't when they started. Actually, it was going for a time. And then Stephen A. Smith joined the show. And him and Skip Bayless going after each other. Again, lightning in a bottle. But let's go right to what Max has to say. Stephen A. Smith, obviously, you know where he stands on Jay Cutler. He's more of a character, and he's just playing that character. Now, it's not to say that he doesn't agree with what this isn't like this is his opinion, but I'm just saying he tends to be more of a character. So let's go right to Max. That's what I'm interested in.
Go ahead. Jay Cutler to the Jets is genius on a performance art level. I mean, a brand-name disaster at quarterback to play the lead in the longest-running Broadway hit show, which is the New York Jets quarterback.
Okay, so that's more of a thing that the media created. I think I'm just going to get into the quarterback crisis thing real quick. I am a firm believer that Chad Pennington was a good quarterback and that we didn't have a crisis when he was there. Did you have a few competitions and everything? Sure. Was it a little overblown by the media? I think that has a percentage there of why people are freaking out. I think that's part of it. The truth of the matter, a lot of people want, especially Giant fans, would want the Jets to be bad. I think they'd want the Jets to be a laughingstock because that fits, that sounds better to the world through the eyes of Big Blue. Through a blue bias, if you will.
It's been going on for almost 50 years now since Joe Namath left town. I mean,
definitely a fake laugh. And let's be honest, I would say that we have had some okay quarterbacks, if not decent. We're not lucky enough to have a kicker, not win a Super Bowl for us like Buffalo did. All I looked at with the Giants was, hey, listen, you're good for beating the Pats. And if you don't fulfill that, then that's your usefulness is done to me. All right, let's continue.
it is perfect. Perfect. You realize it's almost been 50 years. It's just ongoing. This is the perfect guy for the Jets to sign while they look to rebuild and cash their chips, their draft picks, when they go all in for a high first round bust, because the guy they eventually select in the first round to play quarterback will surely be a bust.
Okay, so I think that's interesting. I don't think that we're the same as the Browns, and I'll explain that in the playoff discussion in another video. But the Jets have some wide receivers to work with. If they build that line and they get the right guy in there, they're not going to have problems. How do I know that? Because Ryan Fitzpatrick did really well in 2015. Okay? Yes, we dropped Brandon Marshall, but we still got Decker. See, my point is that you can't just assume it's going to be a bust, especially if you were going to be one of those guys that would praise Sam Darnold or Josh Allen. I think that's Josh Allen. Is it Josh Allen? I don't want to get that wrong. But, okay, if I'm wrong, then just, flame me in the comments. But my point is that you probably wouldn't say that they're going to be a bust. You are guaranteed, you are saying, because they go on a certain team, they will be a bust. I don't necessarily think that, because the special ones elevate those teams. How do I know? Because look at history, football history. Not through blue glasses, but I'm talking about football history with an unbiased perspective. A lot of teams found that guy, and I think the Jets are due. Let's continue.
So so they can hit that half-century anniversary. Oh, the great fanfare. I mean, Cutler was born to play for the New York Clown franchise.
Oh, stop it. Maximilian, you gotta stop. All right, I'm going to do something bold. I'm going to be an apologist for the Jets. Happens a lot, but here's the thing. This idea of them being a clown franchise, we live in the biggest media market, the Jets do. And they got to write their stories. They don't care if it's overblown. They don't care if they write it like it is, quote unquote, a book, like a storybook. And, you know, the endings have to be a narrative as opposed to what they really are. And I'll go into that talking about the media in a different video. But every time the Giants do something, I mean, you've had two Miracle in the Meadowlands, which are, I mean, for all intents and purposes, the reason people kneel today is because the Giants screwed up in the 70s. They wouldn't win a game because they didn't take that kneel. They tried to hand the ball off. JPP, the firework incident, every time Odell Beckham gets touched, the fights, the everything. I mean, holy cow, this team is in the spotlight for wrong reasons a lot. And the Jets were quiet for years, for the most part. Granted, you had the Geno punch, but I'm trying to think of any big... Yeah, you had a few things in there, but I'm just saying, like, they're about equal when you look at it. So the clown franchise is mostly an idea that Giant fans like to pass around. This, again, is the Giants' bias. This is looking things through a blue shade. Not all, not granted. I have some good Giant fans that I'm friends with, so don't get me wrong here. But this is the thing that they've crafted together. See, when they lose in their division, which happens, you know, they take solace in the fact that they can turn around and bully the other team in New York, even though we're not even in your conference, we're not in your division, so we could care less about you, honestly. The only time we have to deal with you is when we have to deal with your fans, or if we're playing you next on our schedule. But my point is that I think I get a little bit tired of Giant fans acting exactly like the Cowboy fans that they hate. One big example is they get tired of the Cowboys saying, we're America's team. How dare they take an entire demographic of people and say that they basically own them, that they are representing that team, that they are the superior team of America, that it's just outrageous. Yet Giant fans turn around and say, hey, we're New York's team. What about bragging about Super Bowls? Yeah, because the Giants don't do that. It's interesting because they brag about those Super Bowls just like Cowboy fans brag about theirs. But they would say, well, we had the most recent one. Why is it taking you so long to catch up? It's funny, too, because Max even admits that the premier position in sports at one time, or now, I don't know, is being quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Even he has to admit it. I'm not even a Cowboys fan. Yeah, I like this guy, Will, okay? Just like him. So let's hear Max just basically spew this Giants propaganda, which sounds great to a Giants fan, but it's not reality.
That is the New York Jets. Real football fans in New York root for the Giants, the Super Bowl champions.
We're not real football fans. All the real football fans are Giant fans. Why? Because they have success. Okay, I think most Giant fans would have a bit of a problem with that because they've been through some bad times and they've had to stick through those bad times. Now, it's not always bad times, but you're basically saying that you have to be a bandwagoner to be a true New York fan. You have to have that success because, you don't want to suffer like the Jet fans. Stop it. Max, you're a sharp dude. You got that intellect. But, dude, when it comes to this stuff, you're not seeing clearly. You're not even... And Will talks about this as time goes on. Of course, I don't really know about his conclusion, but this Will guy actually has to stand up for us because in First Take today, it's completely biased. It's a Giants fan echo chamber, and every now and then, Stephen A. Smith wanders outside of it, just trying to be unbiased because, he doesn't really have loyalties except for a few teams, but because he's still in the old First Take mode where you're trying to entertain a massive group of people. Max, I think, is more of a boxer guy and should stick with it because I think he just watches Giant games on Sundays and just tries to look at the NFL through every Giant game. And I know you can't watch every game, but still. But to say that New York fans are true Giant, that's just ridiculous. Okay, you guys have been looking over your shoulder for decades, hoping that a Joe Namath doesn't rise out of New York's Jets again. Because let's think about this. It's kind of like Samurai Jack. Aku has been, for the most part, he's been the evil overlord. And you have a lot of Giant fans walking around, and everything else. And it just feels like there's something that they're worried about that's coming. And man, if it isn't the Cowboys, they're looking over besides the division, and they are worried about Samurai Jack coming back again. Because let me tell you, it felt like Joe Namath just kind of got injured and then just got out of the picture, just like when Aku sent Jack to the future. Of course, I don't want to insult Aku by comparing him to the Giants, but my point is that he sent him to the future, and he's always worried about when he comes back and does the final death blow with his magic sword. So with the Jets, they've been worried about Namath ever since. Namath took that town away from them. Read about it. They were trying to compete. They were signing people. They were looking like the Jets in 2011, and 2012. It looked like they were just trying to get the spotlight on them again. They were an insecure NFL franchise, and the fans act that way. Not all, but many of them do. Especially these diehards. And I'm not talking about the diehards that are like, just want to watch the game and love football. I think they're out there, but I'm just saying when it comes to Giants, Jets, guys like Max, he would be terrified of the Jets doing well. Terrified. I remember he was at a camp and he asked he was talking to Brandon Marshall and he said, "A pox on your house, because I'm a Giants fan." And that's true. I mean, he doesn't want them to do well. He doesn't want Samurai Jack coming back. Do some reading, guys. You'll know what I'm talking about.
Stephen A. has his radio show in New York.
The Jets franchise is made for people. The Jets franchise is made for people who like to lose.
Nobody likes to lose. Nobody likes to lose. Okay, there might be like 3 people on the planet that like to lose. Okay? They're all Brown fans. I'm kidding. But my point is that I don't think that people like to lose, Max.
It's because you're total and utter emotionalists. You can see nothing but your own emotions. That's the prism through which you look through things. Max, your hatred of the Jets, which I'll stand up for the Jets fans. I'll stand up for New York. I'll be there. Hallelujah.
The fact that he just stood up for people, because in First Take you can't really. This is why I watch Undisputed. First of all, it has the charm that First Take lost, because yes, Shannon Sharpe is not Stephen A. Smith, but I will say this: he is a player, and that adds an element. I'm not talking about the guy that you protect your daughter from. I'm talking about the actual in the game. When First Take started, you had 2 diametrically opposed views, and a moderator to help move things along. Moderator didn't need to do anything hardly, because we were sitting there with the popcorn ready. Back in the prime, when I started First Take, it was the Tim Tebow thing, and you had one guy that loved him and one guy that just adamantly just didn't think he would work out. And man, every time Tebow won, people tuned in, and then they, obviously went on to something else, and that's not bad. You look at old tape of Skip Bayless. He was not a huge Brady guy. But then, when the Tebow thing died out, all of a sudden he loved Brady. Why? Because it's entertainment. Because people talk about that. People care about that. People do not care about the Giants as much as First Take, Max, and Molly want them to. I'm sorry. And the only time they care about the Giants is when they're acting like the clown franchise that most New York teams unfortunately fall under, mostly because of the media. Because you gotta get those headlines. You gotta get those people to read. And if you go with a narrative, people like that more. People love stories. Look at this election. Has truth been coming out? No. Has what people wanted to be true coming out? Most likely. And that's what you're seeing here. Simple. First Take kind of going downhill. But, sorry, Max. Not trying to, be a hater. I'm just trying to give my opinion here. Giant fans, I still respect you. But if you fall under the Max category, Cowboys are better.